meeting for the Clifton Masjid expansion. We're encouraging everyone to try to come and join and participate in the planning of meeting. The meeting will be in Clifton City Hall at 6:30 p.m. Again, at 6:30 p.m. in Clifton City Hall. And there's a special event that's going on where there's a new Time Hoppers movie on ICPC is having a private movie screening on February 9th, 10th, and 11th. This is a family-friendly movie. This screening is going to be held at Cinemark Willowbrook. And for any more, we have a lot of other events going on. I just encourage everybody to check the website. So with that, I will pass it off to our special guests.
Assalamu alaikum, my dear brothers and sisters. I'm Dr. Ibrahim Sutfi. I'm the Chief Colorectal Surgery at St. Joe's, and it's truly an honor to be here with all of you. First off, we want to thank the ICPC leadership, Sheikh Osama and Sister Rana, and all of you for always welcoming us so warmly. You know, this is our second session of this kind of health forum that we're trying to kind of have with this community. And this is a truly meaningful partnership between St. Joe's and this wonderful community. And you know, it's one that's focused on wellness, education, and empowering families here. And you know, one of St. Joe's strengths is that we have a diverse population also amongst our physicians. Many speak different languages, they come from different ethnic backgrounds, but most importantly, many of them come from this community and even pray at this mosque. So that partnership is important because that diversity also reflects the patients that we treat. And at St. Joe's, we're able to treat people with compassion and that cultural understanding. That's very important to our patients. You know, the physicians that are part of this outreach program, they volunteered their time to come here and also give that education and also provide that inspiration to our youth. Because that's how I started in medicine. I was inspired by people that I knew that inspired me to volunteer at the hospital and got me into medicine. So I want to thank you guys again for being here. And without further ado, I want to introduce my dear friend, colleague, and brother, Dr. Toghrul Talishinski. He's an attending surgeon at St. Joe's, but he also serves as the director of minimally invasive and robotic surgery. He's also the director of the minimally invasive fellowship program that we have at St. Joe's, and he's also the chief of bariatric surgery. He's nationally renowned. He has multiple research papers published. He's a member of many of the national and international societies, and he's a wonderful surgeon, but most importantly, he's a wonderful human being. So without further ado, thank you, Dr. Talishinski, for being here.
Thanks so much. I thought you're not going to give me the microphone today. But truly honored to be here. Thanks so much for having us. First and foremost, actually, I want to thank my wife. Today, earlier, she put a lot of work. We did a crest and moonlighting at our own town, Upper Saddle River, and she put a lot of effort. It was a great event, so congratulations to you on that. It's a true honor, honestly, to be here. And one of the questions that we always ask is about healthy living, right? What it means, like what's my specialty? What does it mean to be a bariatric surgeon? Bariatrics mainly, we deal with weight, with excess weight patients. Now, before embarking on this career and coming here and getting educated and helping patients, it's truly important to keep your focus, right? I see a lot of young people in the audience. You know, my own sons are here as well, but it's truly, truly important to keep your focus, don't get distracted, right? Before all the titles that Dr. El-Setfi mentioned that I have, you know, I was born in a beautiful country called Azerbaijan, right? I was born and raised there. Just a couple fun facts for you guys from Azerbaijan. It is the first Muslim democratic country in the world. It's the first Muslim nation to give the voting rights to women, and it's the first Muslim nation to open up schools for girls. So it's truly, you know, embarking journey from there to United States, keeping on track and continuing education, It requires a lot of focus, and the focus translates in the correct choice in food we eat, correct choices on food we make, which translates in the healthier bodies, right? We're going to discuss medical part of this. Usually I stand up, give presentation. It's very unnatural for me to sit down and give presentation. Before discussing the actual evidence base and so forth, what are the recommendations from societies, it's important to look what our teachings are, right? When we look into the Quran, when we look into the Hadith, what do we talk about the overweight and obesity and correct eatings? I remember when I was a child, my mom used to say that our Prophet always said, don't touch the food until you're hungry and let it go before you feel full, right? And since age 4 or 5, that always resonated with me. It's the simplest advice we can always give. Don't touch the food until you're hungry and stop eating before you feel full. Now, we always teach moderation in our religion, right? Be it moderation how we live, moderation what we wear, moderation what we buy, but also moderation in what we eat. And these are the concepts that are truly dear to our teachings, right? We are considered to be the middle nation. We are not supposed to be excessive. We're not supposed to be under. Muslims, we're supposed to be the middle nation. And that point of it translates into the moderation into eating as well. We don't have to be extravagant, but we don't have to be stingy. And eating and drinking, but not wasting by extravagance. This sentence has been multiplied and repeated through teachings over and over again. It sounds simple, kind of is, but it applies to our daily lives. And the best of affairs is the middle one, right? It's the teachings from Prophet. Same thing, when we have a cup of tea, more beautiful Moroccan tea, I don't have to get the 6 cups, right? Couple sips, I enjoy the taste, and the life is good. And same thing, before starting eating, we ask permission to eat, moderation, encouragement, warning against the excess, right? This is where we always get in trouble. Excess calories, excess food, excess needs. And if you're grateful, I will surely increase you in favor, right? Same thing. If you're grateful for a loaf of bread or a huge meal, you will get that in return. This is one of the most beautiful examples and one of the most things that always also resonated with me as well from teaching from a Prophet is 1/3 rule. 1/3 water, 1/3 food, and 1/3 empty, right? You don't have to fill the stomach to the brink, right? 1/3 liquid, 1/3 food, and 1/3 empty. And the more we understand about medicine, the more we understand physiology, these words resonate even more with us, right? We look at the stomach itself as a reservoir. Bowel, intestines, colons, they're considered different organs. But the stomach, we always look at the reservoir. We put food there and accommodates the food. And this is a statement from the Prophet, right? This goes back so many years. This reflects what we currently teach in the surgical societies, that stomach is a vessel, and there's nothing worse than we can fit into that, right? We can fill our pockets, our bank accounts, but there's nothing worse we can fill than our stomachs, because stomach is truly a vessel. Now, similar things we're going to discuss: meal planning, portion control, mindful eating. These are simple things we always tell our family members, our patients, and it goes true in our religion as well. And by watching what we eat, what we drink, has been shown that there's a more than a 30% reduction in cardiovascular diseases. Now, let's discuss the medical part of it. I know initial couple slides sounded very simple, but let that stay on the back of your mind, because almost every single medical and surgical paper I'm going to discuss with you, you can find correlation to our teachings as well. Now, we discuss obesity, and obesity for the longest time was just considered as a flaw in human nature, which is not true. Obesity actually is a disease. Just the way lung cancer is a disease, diabetes is a disease, obesity is a disease, and obesity is a chronic disease. Chronic implies it stays with us for many, many years. Now, it's very important also to understand and reflect, does it truly affect our life? Does it change our life expectations, how long we live? Because when we look at the TV, we always see different debates that affect our lives, be it gun control, vaccinations, or whatever you want to call it. But when you look statistically, obesity and overweight is a number 2 preventable cause of death. Right, first is smoking. I know in the first meeting there was discussion about habits and so forth, right? But after that, being overweight and obesity is a number 2 preventable cause of death in the United States. Now, years ago when we were in the United Kingdom doing a medical conference, I saw this ads on the street and I took a picture of that. Extremely effective, right? They're kind of playing with words there, but obesity is a cause of cancer. Dr. El-Setfi deals with colorectal cancer, and he can attest that as well. Most of his patients are obese. Obesity increases inflammatory state in our body and increases chances colorectal cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancers. Multiple cancers have been linked directly to obesity. Now, most of the countries in the world, more than 30% of the population are obese. It's a mind-boggling number. So it's not just the Clifton, Passaic County, New Jersey issue. It's way beyond that. In the United States, more than 66% of the population is overweight. So most of the people who live in the United States are either overweight or obese. Now I looked at it, I'm like, oh man, we're doing great. We are not doing great if you look at our own ethnic backgrounds. There's significant rise in obesity in Bangladeshi population and Pakistani population. And the interesting fact about that, we are not all the same. Obesity affects South Asian population significantly worse, meaning which even at a low rate of obesity, it causes significant more health-related issues such as cardiovascular issues. When we discuss weight and obesity, we don't look at the weight as a number, meaning which someone is 150 pounds or 200 pounds, that's kind of irrelevant. We look at it from the context what we call BMI, body mass index. Because when someone is 200 pounds, it's different if you're a 5 foot or 6 foot tall. The taller we are, the heavier we can be. And there's a ratio of the weight to the height we call BMI. Ideally, body mass index should be between 19 to 25, 25 to 30 is overweight, and any BMI above 30 is different classes of obesity. So over 120 million Americans are in the overweight region, more than 60 million in class 1 obesity, 20 million in class 2 obesity, and class 3 obesity is more than actually 20 million. And the scariest part is actually in the United States, if you had to guess which category is rising the highest, it's a class 3 obesity. So year after year, more and more patients fall into the class 3 obesity rather than any other category. So that tells us as a society, we are going on the wrong direction. Now, there's a Center of Disease State, right, meaning which it's the largest organization we have, be it health-related issue, vaccine-related issues, any related issues, they always give recommendations what to do. Number one recommendation from them is availability of a healthier food. Now, that's easier said than done, right? I'm a physician, Dr. El-Setfi, physician. I see colleagues in the audience as well. It's very difficult to find healthy food. It's very difficult to find healthy food in the hospital that I work at. It's a very difficult thing to find healthy food in our communities. But despite that, that's the number one recommendation from CDC. But more importantly, especially, for example, Passaic County, Patterson, Clifton. Number 3 is improved geographic availability of the supermarkets. Right, certain of these recommendations truly hit home. Incentives for the food production, smaller portion size options. And number 9, limit advertisements of bad foods. You open up your Instagram, TikTok, phone, TV, YouTube. There is no advertisement of healthy foods. It's all bad choices. Number 15, reduce screen time. Reduce screen time. I put that just for one person. All jokes aside, but the other part that we're truly struggling in, especially in our community, is screening for obesity in children and adolescents. That's also one of the highest rising categories of obesity in the population. The heaviest patients I see in the office every single week are the children. And I absolutely assure you, let's say if I see around on Tuesdays, Thursdays when I see patients, when I see an average adult around 300 pounds, it's very common for me to see a 16-year-old who's 400 or 500 pounds. Very common. The heaviest the heaviest patients I've operated on, also children. The heaviest patient I've operated on was a 15-year-old. It's very interesting thought process, right? How our population health has dramatically changed, but towards the worse. So let's take a look back in the history. Let's go back to 1985. And this is the map of United States, and it shows the distribution by color of the weight. The darker the regions will get, that means the higher body mass index their weight of those states goes. Or vice versa, if it gets lighter, those states' population are getting lighter and lighter, which is they're getting healthier. So let's see, starting from 1985, what percentage of the population goes above body mass index of 30. More and more states are getting darker, heavier, darker, and heavier. Now we're adding deeper colors, meaning which body mass index now is going above 35. We're going to continue the journey in 1990s. Now we're adding even deeper colors. 2000s. Now we're going to the red zones, which was unheard of 20 years ago. Now we have so many states with a body mass index above 30 for the most of the population. The way to look at it is weight and body mass index is it's not just a number. It truly affects every single part of our body. Weight and obesity is related to more than 57 medical conditions, and this list is growing every couple years. Patients, very common to see us with unrelenting headaches due to increased intracranial pressure from the weight. Sleep apnea, where the people snore at nighttime, very high relationship with the weight. Diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol, back pain, joint pain. One of the most common reasons we see patients is they will tell us with tears in their eyes, I have a 6-year-old, I cannot take them to the park. And the weight is one of the main reasons it's affecting their health. Similar relationship between the increasing body mass index and chance of this patient developing be it cancer, 52% if your body mass index is more than 40. High blood pressure, arthritis, diabetes. Similar expectations as the weight is going up, chance of developing diabetes. If someone's body mass index is more than 35, in women, there is more than 93% chance you will develop diabetes. Similar numbers in children. And in general, if a child has high weight, they will have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high lipid levels, and high sugars. And this, at the end of the day, translates in decrease in life expectancy. So as the weight and body mass index goes higher, men will live 12 years less, and women will live 9 years less than their life expectancy. And we live in a society where finance is extremely important. And with each increase in 1% of body mass index, it translates to over $10 million in a financial spend for the population. So with time, not only time has increased, but also portion size have increased, right? These are the portion sizes from McDonald's, for example, from the French fries compared to 1955 average to the current, from the Burger King to the current, and from the Coke or chocolate. And it's extremely to make difficult choices, right? It's difficult choices. 8 years ago, so there was a Super Bowl champions reception in White House. I don't know if you guys saw the pictures. What was the food at the reception for the high-performing athletes? I will show you the picture. This is actually a picture from St. Joseph Hospital, which we work at. I actually went there and took a picture of one muffin they're selling. One muffin will set you back 630 calories. And this is the picture that was taken for the Super Bowl winners. They were eating McDonald's at their reception in White House. And number of overweight and obesity in New Jersey is pretty high too. For adolescents, it's over 10%. So over 10% of adolescents in New Jersey are obese. Weight is a complex mechanism, right? It's not as easy as to tell, hey, just be careful what you eat. Our weight is affected not just by that, it's affected by social psychology, individual physical activity, physical environment, physiology, individual physiology, food consumption, food production. The multiple factors involved in weight, and they all are interacting with each other. So we would tell our children, our loved ones, hey, just don't eat that. It's more complicated than that. And the worst thing we can do is blame patients, blame people for being overweight. They didn't choose to be overweight, just the way people don't choose to have diabetes, blood pressure. They don't choose to be overweight. It's very easy to go in the thought process, hey, just making wrong choices. It's more complicated than that. There are a lot of fad diets out there, right? Meaning which Herbalife, Weight Watchers, so forth. Do they work? They work very short term. Meaning which when people go on those diets, they may lose weight for a month or 2 months. But the question is, are they able to keep that off? Does the weight come back once they lose the weight? And in most of the patients, actually, it does. So in 7 years, when we follow these patients who try the short-term dieting plans, 95% of those patients were actually heavier than they started before the dieting. So short-term dieting doesn't usually work. For example, those delicious order of French fries that we order from those fast foods, on average 500-600 calories. How long does it take us to burn those calories? It takes an average 1 hour of continuous running. It takes around an hour and a half of continuous swimming, or 3.5 hours of continuous walking to burn those calories. So we also need to be honest with our exercise ability, how much effort and time we're putting into it. I found this picture hilarious, right? People taking escalators to go to the fitness center. This is kind of reality, right? We're going to the gym, but we're using escalators. On average, actually, we spend, this is an old number, we spend close to $100 billion, and every year that number is increasing in the weight loss market. But however, as a nation, we're fattest than we've ever been, right? So clearly spending money alone does not translate into it. Now, those golden statements, don't touch the food until you're hungry and stop eating before you feel full, kind of will always stay true. The part that I was also asked to discuss is some of the medications and surgical procedures that are out there to help those patients on the other spectrum of the weight. The multiple medications out there, some of them have been around for a very, very long time. Some medications are by mouth, people will take the pills. Some medications are injectable medications. Now, depending on the type of medications, they may give some amount of weight loss. Currently there's a lot of medications that are injectable medications that you always see in the commercials and so forth. Those Wegovys, Ozempics, etc. They give pretty impressive weight loss. However, there's certain associated issues with that patients need to be aware before going on this journey. One of the worst things we can do, and we see those patients over and over again, is going to med spas to get these medications. These are medications, this is a disease, so strongly important to see a professional doctor to get these treatments. And these medications are not short-term medications. We need to remain on these medications for indefinite amount of future. And the reason for that is once we stop these medications, within 6 months, 92% of the patients regain the weight back. So for most of the patients, it works as long as they take it. That being said, there's significant side effects associated with that. Almost half of the patients have significant amount of nausea, vomiting, loose bowel movements, cramping. For some patients, it's not that bad. It's like a minor issue, so they continue taking it. But for some patients, it's significant enough they cannot tolerate it. So 30% of the patients actually stop the medication within 3 months. That's the average lifespan. This is the study from the actual company that makes this medication, Novo Nordisk. Now, when you see a company make tremendous amount of fortune of one single medication, it should raise your alarms. Novo Nordisk is a company from Norway, Norway is one of the richest countries in the world because of the oil supply. Despite that, based on Wegovy medication alone, it increased the country's GDP. So one medication translated into increase in the finances of the whole country. So that should alone tell you what are the actual motives behind this medication. So this is where it was shown that once they stop the medication, within 6 months, weight comes back. It's this, what we call tug of war, right? Weight loss versus weight gain. Calories in, calories out. How does it affect our metabolism? This continuous phenomenon that all the patients are struggling with. When it comes to weight loss procedures, they work a little bit differently. Now, obviously, we reserve weight loss procedures for patients who have failed conservative treatments. On average, it's actually very commonly performed. In the United States, roughly speaking, around 200 to 300,000 of these procedures are performed on a yearly basis. There are a couple procedures out there. One of them is called gastric bypass. Doing gastric bypass, we make the stomach smaller, but also we reroute the intestines, so body becomes less efficient absorbing calories. And the other procedure, which is the most common procedure, is called the sleeve gastrectomy. Now, doing this procedure, both of the procedures are done laparoscopically. We make the stomach itself smaller and we remove the stretchal part of the stomach. This part of the stomach makes certain chemicals, hormones that are responsible for hunger, for cravings. That goes out. So in general, it translates in patients significant reduction in hunger, and reduction of the amount of food we can eat because of the leftover stomach is pretty small. So this goes out and we're left with this stomach. So Ramadan is coming, so Ramadan Kareem, hopefully inshallah in a week. What happens when we start fasting? When we start fasting, there's certain hormones in our body that immediately starts increasing, that tells our brain, I am hungry, give me food. And we studied that in patients who underwent weight loss procedures, despite fasting or not fasting, that hunger hormone never goes up. So patients do not have that desire to eat, right? Which is completely different for the patients who never had any weight loss procedures. Hopefully no one's grossed out, but what happens, what does that, didn't work here. That's okay, I was going to show you what the actual stomach looks like, but next time. Let's try it one more time. I think some people want to see it. It didn't work. Okay. I am going to folder.
Or just play it right here first.
Oh, here we go. Internet issues. Okay, let me see. Oh, it didn't go there. Okay. Do you know what happened with the presentation by any chance? Oh, it plays there, actually. Oh, here we go. Okay, all right. Thanks so much. So this is the small stomach that we take out, right? Stomach is like a balloon. You can blow into it. Like someone said that almost 1,500 years ago, right? Stomach is a vessel. And this is a part of the stomach we remove, and we see how much food this part of the stomach could have held. It can actually hold tremendous amount of food and tremendous amount of calories, right? And we're gonna hold it. You can see now that stomach removed actually takes probably half of my abdominal cavity space. So we need to be extremely careful what we put in that vessel, right? And when we compare how does what we say bariatric metabolic procedures, how does it affect other issues, such as mainly diabetes? And when we compare that to the most aggressive medical therapy possible, insulins, injections, bariatric procedure is always more superior, meaning which patients who underwent weight loss procedure, they get way better control of their sugars, cholesterols, and other medical issues. So there are multiple recommendations and societies, what we can do for the patients, and we work with them to give it to them the most up-to-date treatment. We bring our dietitian, medical doctors, endocrinologists, psychologists, which is extremely important part of what we eat and drinking to take care of our patients. And I want to finish that once again, embracing moderation, what we've been told us in our teachings for many, many years, and having balance and gratitude and mindful consumption. All right? So as we said, obesity is a disease, it's a chronic disease, and we're here to treat it together. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. Talishinski, for such a insightful talk and so much information. And I know, judging from last time, we had a very active question and answer session. So I think we have the QR code here for everybody to scan. If you had some questions that you wanted to ask, anonymously here, don't be afraid. This was a pleasant part of the last session we had, where we had very insightful questions and answers, and hope to give you even more information beyond what was already given. So I'll start off with the first one, and they will be coming in quite rapidly, if I remember from last time. And I apologize if we don't get through all of them, I'll try to, because some of them, they may be duplicates of others, and we'll just kind of generalize them and try to answer them as much as we can. So the first one is, Salam, brother. Sometimes BMI is not the full picture. You can have a high BMI, but be lean and muscular. Could you comment on that, please?
Yes, we can discuss on that topic for hours and hours. That's extremely important question. BMI has significant limitations. The certain parts of the presentation, obviously I had to leave it a little concise. That being said, right now it's one of the best tools we have. We also do body composition in addition to body mass index. We use certain machines to understand what is actual composition with regards to fat and muscle mass. But it just makes it, for the global discussion, having something tangible such as BMI easier to discuss with the patients. But overall, I do agree with your comment.
Okay. So there's a few questions about what would you say is the most effective way to lose weight, and how can we avoid overeating, especially after iftar?
I do have certain slides. I can send it to you. Maybe we can share with our community the correct way of opening iftar. That the rule 1/3, 1/3 is truly the key. We do need to leave a little space in the stomach that's empty. There's at least 20-30 minute delay in the signaling to our brain that I'm full, and the only way we get signal to our brain that I'm full is when those chemicals, hormones stop going to our brain when the stomach is completely stretched. However, those signals will come eventually to our brain to stop eating if we eat slowly. I will share what kind of meal plan we can have. It will be probably easier for the community to understand that part. What was the other question?
It was about ways to
Lose weight.
Way to lose weight. Exercise.
Yeah, ways to lose weight. Exercise, one of the famous statements, actually exercising begins in the kitchen. It does not begin in the gym. So what we're eating, drinking is probably the most effective way to lose weight. Of course, staying active and so forth is important. Not skipping meals. A lot of people think skipping meals is a good idea. It's actually not a good idea whatsoever. It actually slows down your metabolism. Having normal breakfast is very important. Avoiding simple sugar is extremely important. Probably one of the healthiest diets, what we call the Mediterranean diet, which probably all of us in the audience can feel very attached to. It's very easy for us to follow Mediterranean diet. The other important thing is avoiding short-term dieting. Short-term dieting, anything that's short-term will fail. So changing your goals, coming up with a schedule, when you're gonna exercise, when you're gonna go to the gym, having dedicated time is the key. But once again, weight loss starts in the kitchen.
You kind of touched upon this during your presentation. What would you warn people about the new fad in taking injections for like Ozempic, etc., and other quick, easy weight loss drugs? And also, if you can comment on what about the people that take it for diabetes management?
Sure. I'm not an endocrinologist. My wife's an endocrinologist, but I have a decent amount of experience with that, and I will share that with you. The way to look at all these things, be it medications, weight loss procedures, etc., they're tools. They're tools. Just the way this cell phone is a tool, everything is also a tool. The tool has to be used correctly in that correct place. Taking those medications to look good for a wedding picture is a different story. taking those medications to actually get healthier, to have improvement in diabetes. That's what they're meant for. And they need to be done under supervision. These are serious, serious medications with serious possible life-threatening effects. So we need to make sure that you're taking this medication in supervised conditions to make sure you qualify for these medications or procedures. They are not a fad. They should not become a fad. For a lot of patients, they're life-saving interventions, but it needs to be used in a correct way.
Yes.
Fantastic question. Yeah, so the question was from actual our gastroenterology colleague at St. Joseph's Health was, why do patients regain weight once they stop the medication? Is that because they were not able to change their lifestyle, they stopped exercising and so forth? Actually, this study, you're a doctor and I'll answer you in a precise manner. There's a step 4 trial from the Wegovy. In their 4th phase of the trial, the weight regain was irrespective of if patients were exercising or not exercising. It has to do with the physiology of the medication and the lack of the blockade of those receptors once the medication stopped. Purely physiological.
Thank you. They made a comment, some people are saying the live stream volume is extremely low. Is there anything that we can do? Yeah. No, we can't. Okay. I apologize. Yeah, and then, so just a lot of questions came. I wanted to ask you this one. If I have diabetes and I'm overweight, and if I lose weight, will I be diabetes free? And maybe you can touch upon some of the surgical options that do exist and their benefits.
Sure, of course. One of the highest correlations between weight and weight loss is improvement in diabetes. The word bariatric surgery kind of has gone away. Now we'll call that more also metabolic surgery, metabolic procedures, because how it affects rest of the metabolic conditions irrespective of the weight loss. For example, with a gastric bypass, we see improvement in diabetes the next day regardless of the weight loss. Will my diabetes go away? That's a very loaded and difficult question. There's certain calculators and so forth we use to estimate what are the chance of diabetes remission. Diabetes is a chronic condition. Diabetes is, for the lack of term, like a cancer. It will get better, it may go away, but it's never completely gone. It can always come back. So depending how long we had diabetes for, obviously depends what kind of diabetes we have. I imagine we're discussing type 2 diabetes. Depending how long we had, what kind of medications we're taking, and our body's reserve to produce insulin, we can fairly certain tell what are the percentage of chances of complete diabetes remission. But regardless, after weight loss procedures, metabolic procedures, there is definitely improvement. 92% improvement in diabetes. There can be, in some cases, that it's complete remission. Patients do not have to take medications, or there's significant decrease in the medications needed, but there's definitely improvement in that.
I know a lot of weight loss is multifactorial. I think a lot of questions were regarding emotional eating, and when stressed or not feeling well, we just want to eat, especially junk food or sweets. And are there any strategies to overcome that?
We can look at the food as almost a comfort place, right? We're all raised that when there's a happy thing, when there's a wedding, when there's a birthday, there's a food on the table. When there is sadness, someone passed away, there's a food at the table. When it's okay day, there's food at the table. So we always have this relationship with the food that whatever it is, it's a comforting thing for us. And that comforting thing, there's a fine line between a comfort and addiction. So sometimes that can translate into addiction to food. Be it medications or weight loss procedures, they are not done without understanding psychological intake of the patient. Maybe I went through that slide pretty quickly, but one of the parts of our program is having dedicated psychologists to understand what are the needs of this person. Where does it come from? Where are the unmatched? Where's the needs? What can we address? There's certain medications, for example, that work very well for behavior-based eating. It's called almost reward-based eating. It's a complex question, but it's definitely part of the equation and would definitely address those needs. The answer, there's no one simple strategy. If what our person is asking, it's extremely complex to address that. You need multi-specialty target and specialists to address this issue.
We have another question, but maybe to expand upon that is how has the surgeries for your patients improved their lives?
Out of everything I do, I would say probably the most rewarding thing is when we change the life of a teenager, to be honest with you. Because when you affect the 18, 19-year-old's life, you affect the mom, dad's, uncle's, cousin's lives. The typical presentation is, this happens day in, day out, is I'll see a teenager in the office. They'll always come in a hoodie, will sit behind mom and dad, and the first time they don't say one single word to me. There's zero eye contact, there's the shame, there's embarrassment, there's the tears in their eyes. After a couple sessions, couple times understanding, then we'll finally ask the parents to leave the room. We'll continue talking and talking. For some, we do medications, for some, do weight loss procedures, and then you see the transformation of this young person. Fast forward a year or 2 years, they're 100, 150 pounds down. They come in full confidence. They'll show me the acceptance letter to the college. They have driver license. 2 different human beings. There's nothing more rewarding in my career than seeing that.
Thank you. And, in the spirit of Ramadan, do you have any, can you touch upon like the positive aspects of fasting and how it affects the body as a whole?
There's been actually multiple medical studies showing that positive impact of fasting, significant decrease in pro-inflammatory markers in our body once we fast. The correct, important thing is how we open the fast. I'll touch base with you about that. Obviously, if we already have certain pre-existing medical conditions, that's a different story. But in general, fasting for this period of time is extremely positive energy in our cardiovascular, sleeping behaviors, metabolic profile, and inflammatory markers. Extremely positive impact.
There's been a number of questions regarding, is red meat really bad for you, or can I substitute junk food with complementary food? I may want to touch upon that as a colorectal surgeon and really talk about some importance about gut health. And I really think it's important to put in, good, organic, natural foods in our body. Like he started off with the quote from our beloved prophet, about the stomach being the vessel, but the body also needs to be nurtured with the proper foods. And unfortunately, you know, and there's questions about FDA preventing the selling of foods. This is, you know, this has become a problem in our country and in the world, actually, about mass production of food. Because, you know, before, you know, you would eat strawberries only when it's the time to eat strawberries, during the strawberry season. You would eat avocados only when it was time for avocados. But in this world of abundance, we want everything when we want it. So now we're using, you know, chemicals and processes that are making these foods that are not naturally made during this time period, and they're, you know, processed and no longer natural. So I would encourage you to find organic foods. So you're eating it during the proper time, so to minimize the amount of processing, the amount of chemicals that are placed in the foods. And the other thing is also trying to eat the healthy foods that are high in antioxidants. You know, there are many fruits and vegetables that have antioxidant properties that, you know, may minimize those risks of developing malignancies or cancer. And eating a well-balanced, eating high-fiber foods. You know, as a colorectal surgeon, I encourage all my patients to even supplement with fiber. But it's very important to read the labels of the foods that we buy and make sure, you know, if you can't pronounce the words that are in the ingredients, then I wouldn't put it in my body, or not put it in my body all the time. You know, sometimes we can treat ourselves with, you know, candy and stuff like that, but you really have to be cognizant about the ingredients. And I really learned that, you know, from my wife, actually, where sometimes she would send me to the grocery store to bring food, and I bring stuff back, and then she sends me back to return everything because the ingredients weren't approved by her. But that's something that I learned from hers. Really read the ingredients. It's not that I don't believe like there's a conspiracy that they're trying to do like with the food, but I really think it's because of mass production and, you know, shipping food all over the world. It has to last. It can't expire quickly. So if you're shipping fruits across the world, you know, they have to be able to last several days. So they modify them. They put in preservatives to make it last the travel and the shipping of the food. So unfortunately, just keep that in mind. Let me see if there was anything for you. So what is, which one do you want? Do you think overeating or being obese is a sign of a weak mind or mindset, since you mentioned that the brain controls the stomach?
Brain does not control the stomach. If anything, stomach controls the brain to a certain degree. Quite the opposite, right? Like what mentioned during the presentation is the worst thing and the last thing we should do is blame the person. We don't blame the person for patients that we already see already feel shame, already feel discouraged, and our job is honestly to help them versus point fingers. Their whole life they've been pointed fingers at. They come in and seek help, and we're supposed to help them. And when we look at it, there's actually a significant relationship with the weight and certain genetic factors as well. Clearly, patients cannot change their genetic distribution. So the short answer is absolutely not. It's not a flaw or weakness in mind or mindset.
All right, I think we got one more question. Yeah.
General recommendation, right? Like when we speak this Mediterranean diet, you know, it's high protein, medium fat, and low carbs. You cannot do no carbs. It's extremely difficult to no carbs. As a regular human being, it's really, really difficult to do no carbs, and we definitely need certain carbohydrates. The type of carbohydrates we don't need is what I'm holding in my hand, right? Simple sugar from Dunkin' Donuts, right? Even though it tasted really good with my Moroccan tea, But I limited to I think one or two, but that's about it. These are very pro-inflammatory. These are highly processed sugars. This is not the answer. A lot of vegetables have starch as a carbohydrate. If you think about it, a lot of vegetables have carbohydrates. It's completely fine.
Okay, so we'll. I think we'll wind down to, I think, how should we consume protein? Okay, let's do this. Sure. What is the estimated weight loss for your patients after surgery, and how do patients feel after their surgery? And what do you see, like maybe talk about their progression and when you see them in their post-op visits, and what's the expectation?
Sure. It's a surgery, even though it's done minimal invasively via a couple small incisions, it's a surgery, and surgery should not be taken lightly. It's extremely safe surgery. It's safer than having someone's gallbladder appendix removed, but still it's a surgery. Patients usually go home within 24 hours, but that being said, recovery takes around 1 to 2 weeks, and usually after 2 weeks, they're kind of back to their usual state. Weight loss is not immediate. There's nothing immediate in life, and weight loss procedure is definitely not immediate. Weight loss on average takes around 12 to 18 months. And within that time frame, we expect to lose on average around 65% of the excess weight. Depending on the procedure, 65 to 75% of the excess weight, depending on the procedure, within 12 to 18 months. Usually within a couple months, actually, patients' energy levels are off the charts because the weight is kind of shedding off. Pounds and pounds of weight that was holding them back, it's not holding back. One of my favorite things I saw from my patient used to be a professional bowler. And don't quote me on that, I forgot how much each bowling ball weighs, but what he would do is, with a certain amount of weight, he'll put another bowling ball on his desk to see I lost this much weight. So it kind of simplified what this patient is going through and the victory that the patient is able to accomplish.
Maybe I can touch upon these last two questions here, and then our protein drinks good every day. I think once again it comes down to the ingredients in the protein shakes, because a lot of them have all these chemicals. They have seed oils. They're pro-inflammatory. So you have a question? Oh, I thought you had a question. Are they good every day? The answer, if you want an honest answer, no, they're not good every way. The best way to intake the protein is naturally, through the meats. But also, that comes to the next question: how should we consume protein? Is eating meat daily okay? Well, yes, it's okay to eat meat, but it's there are cold cuts, that those are processed meats. So they have, there's been kind of even reports in the news just recently about their level 4 carcinogenic. Eating meats naturally is good, but like the Prophet said, everything in moderation. I would encourage, I think the main theme that I got from Dr. Talishinski's talk is to be balanced. So the balance comes from how we consume food, the types of foods that we eat, exercise, and tie into the last session we had is practicing mindfulness. And this is some of the central kind of tenets of our religion, is everything in moderation, being mindful, and practicing everything in moderation. Extremes of anything are never good. You'll ask me, what is the type of diet to help me lose weight? Well, there is no answer to that, because if there was an answer, then we'd all be on that diet. I think everybody is different, and I bring it back to gut health in terms of the microbiome. So we all have these good bacteria in our gut, And unfortunately, throughout the years, because of we've been eating more processed foods, we've kind of damaged this microbiome. And, you know, research is showing that, you know, this has played an effect in how we digest food and how do we absorb food and the pro-inflammatory, you know, like causes from eating, like having a bad diet. And I think that's one of the beauties of the month of Ramadan that's coming up. You know, it's a time for us, it's a gift from God to kind of restart every year if we've been kind of going off the path throughout the year. And it's a time to reflect. It's a time to kind of renew, you know, our investment in our faith, but also in our body. So I think, you know, I think this talk was very fruitful to be given just a week before Ramadan, and it acts more as a reminder, you know, for even ourselves and everyone here in this room to really practice that mindfulness. And there's a lot of beauty to fasting, and let's get healthy together. I'm sorry if we didn't touch upon all the questions for tonight. As always, you guys are always very active on this iPad chat, and I tried to get everyone in, but I apologize if I missed anybody. But you know, hopefully this is like the beginning of many of these sessions, and we kind of further build this partnership together. And I have an announcement. I see someone who is interested in shadowing. I have good news for you. It's finally approved. So, you know, for all the youth who wanted to kind of shadow at St. Joe's, we just got the approval last week from the CEO. And I'll give you the email address, and whoever's interested can email Waleed, and he's the chief PA. And he will help you with any volunteering, because I had a few emails from some of the youth here, and that's something that we want to encourage here. That's part of our mission being here, is to also inspire the youth that you as well can be a part of this, and healthcare, if that's something that you're interested in. We want to help you get to your goals as well. And once again, I thank you again, and thank you, Sister Rana, for always being so supportive of this initiative. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.